There are many people and philanthropic organizations, businesses, and individuals who are doing important work to help the disadvantaged in the world. But at the same time, again through my eyes, fear continues to play a major role in why we are not more loving, compassionate, kind, gentle, and understanding with each other and ourselves. We continue to have major problems in getting along and living in harmony with our families and with our communities, with our country and other countries, and with our planet. There are millions of children and adults who are starving and others who are living below the poverty line, who do not have enough food to eat or proper health care. Addiction problems are on the increase, as are physical and sexual abuse. The rate of suicide is increasing in the armed services, as it is in several countries. Now, in our youth, side commentary. More jails are being built. Our educational system is in dire need of help. Even as our military budget continues to go sky high, there are fears and concerns among many about the economic toll and political and spiritual impacts that wars throughout the world have been taking. There are fears about the possibility of nuclear war, fears about There are fears about the possibility of nuclear war, fears about global warming, and whether or not these problems can really be solved. There are fears about drug wars, cultural wars, religious wars, and wars over natural resources and how they affect the world. But perhaps the fears at the top of the list for many people are about financial instability and of terrorism. Because I am on a spiritual pathway does not mean there have not been those moments when I have had my own fears about money or the harm that could come to me through terrorist activity. It is my impression that my attitudes and thoughts have a direct effect on how I and others deal with safety, money, and material possessions. There is certainly nothing wrong with money. What gets us into trouble is our attachment to money, which can lead to our making it have more value to us than our relationships. At the end of our lives, when we reflect back on what has been most important to us, most people will agree that it has been loving relationships, not how much money we had in the bank. In recent times, as in many other times in history, there has been a cyclic phenomenon where there is a tremendous focus on money and material things, on not having enough. People's worst fears seem to have come true in that so many have lost their jobs, their homes, and even their retirement savings that they had planned for and worked so hard to achieve. The financial crisis has had serious consequences around the world. People got angry, blaming everyone and everything they could think of. It has been all too easy to fall into the deep hole of victimhood. Many found it impossible to experience any sense of peace when the force of these economic failures entered their lives. Commentary. When the traumatic events of life happen, some never recover, and people continue to feel bitter, angry, and unhappy the rest of their lives. They continue to scratch their injuries so continuously that their wounds will never heal. Others seem able to experience their fearful and bitter emotions, but not get stuck in them. To forgive the past and choose to make their loving relationships more important than money and material things, or other petty things about this life. More commentary. These people refuse to live in the past. They choose not to worry. They see worry as a waste of time because in actuality, worrying doesn't work. Against the majority of current world belief, they refuse to believe that the fearful past is going to predict a fearful future. They refuse to allow themselves to be pessimists and choose instead to live with an optimistic attitude. They seem to know they can choose to be peaceful internally no matter what is happening in the external world. That's a gift. Fear can be known as the most virulent and damaging virus known to humankind. Most of the world's belief system of how we communicate with each other and ourselves is based on fear. Let's explore just a few of the beliefs of the world's ego thought system as it relates to money and material things. Our ego's laws are based on the belief that our happiness depends on how much money we have in the bank and how many possessions we own. Its voice of fear bombards us with an attitude of greed, thinking of ourselves first and getting as much as we can and holding on to it. The fear that is the nucleus of our egos gives us an insatiable desire and hunger to consume more and more, and an unending consumption of more. Our ego's cardinal rule is that nothing is ever enough. Seek but never find what you are looking for. Build your life with the fear of scarcity every step of the way. Don't. Commentary. For example, our egos can deceive us into believing if we just could have $1 million in the bank, we would have peace of mind for the rest of our lives. And we would feel secure. Our fearful ego mind, the king of deception, would then come in with the thought that $1 million is not enough to give me peace of mind and happiness. What I really need is $2 million to feel consistently happy and peaceful. Our egos would not want us to believe that love, peace, and happiness are the enemy. So what generally happens when we follow the belief in the world's fear-based laws around attitudes, when there, for example, our egos can deceive us into believing if we just could have $1 million in the bank, we would have peace of mind for the rest of our lives. And we would feel secure. Our fearful ego mind, the king of deception, would then come in with the thought that $1 million is not enough to give me peace of mind and happiness. What I really need is $2 million to feel consistently happy and peaceful. Our egos would not want us to believe that love, peace, and happiness are the enemy. So, what generally happens when we follow the belief in the world's fear-based laws around attitudes, when there is financial insecurity and we have lost our jobs, our homes, and our retirement savings that we were going to make for sure that it made us feel safe and secure for our future, our egos motivate us to believe that we will feel more peaceful and happy if we find someone to blame and direct our anger at that person. So we develop an attitude that our egos call healthy, which is to have a raging anger at bankers, mortgage loan officers, and politicians. But they give us reason enough to hate them. We make up an enemy list in our minds, and when our justified anger does not seem to be enough, we add on to the list our anger at the world, God, and finally, ourselves. The trouble is, we soon discover that it is just about as impossible to experience peace of mind and justified anger at the same time. When we get caught in the ego's thought system, our beliefs are created from the fear that the past is going to predict the future, and the future is going to be just like the past. I have witnessed some people who, when financial insecurity comes their way, continue to feed on their anger and bitterness and lack of trust the rest of their lives. They seem to go around and round in circles, with peace, intimacy, and love always escaping them. They do not still their minds and find new creative solutions for the problems they face. They superimpose the past onto the present and future and thus continue to recreate what they least want to experience. There are others I have known who have faced their human feelings without getting stuck in them and have forgiven the world and themselves. Commentary: it's hard to forgive yourself sometimes. Commentary over. They spend their lives in a giving and helping attitude. The attitude they carry with them is an optimistic one, believing that when one door closes, another door will open. They are on the lookout for ways they can help others even during bad times, and they are not afraid to reposition themselves. They remind themselves with gratitude that the love they have and give to others is the greatest treasure they could ever have, and it's a treasure no one can ever take away from them. Some years ago, Diane and I were guest lecturers on a conference titled The Power, Healing, Power of Laughter and Play in Boston, Massachusetts. We were surprised to be met at the airport by two clowns. I started a conversation with the clown next to me and asked him his story about how he became a clown. His story was amazing. He was a 63-year-old businessman who had been quite successful. In 1987, he lost almost everything he had in the economic downturn. He stated that he became depressed and angry at himself for his poor judgments, and he was always feeling fearful of the future. One day, he read in the newspaper that there was going to be a night course on clowning to be given at a local college near him. He could not believe it when he found himself signing up for the course. He told me that this decision saved his life. He changed his lifestyle, including where he lived. He goes to hospitals and schools and helps children learn how to laugh. He enjoys giving his love to children and making them laugh, and the more he does this, the happier he is. His last words to us were that he had never known he could be this happy. People like him show us that we can suffer economic loss and see it as an opportunity for a spiritual transformation. We can make giving more important than getting. We can begin to see love as more important than material things. We can begin to feel that love actually is the answer to all our problems. There are many of us who would rank our huge fear of terrorists along with fears about money and the lack of it at the top of our pyramid of fears. So far, I don't think that anyone has come up with a successful plan that people agree on to rid the world of terrorists. They seem so elusive and hard to find.